Hi, thank you for tuning in. I'm Jaime. I'm a EMDR, CBT, and ERP therapist, and we are talking today about introducing ERP for OCD treatment. So, ERP sometimes is about facing what OCD fears most, right? Meaning your thoughts, meaning um, the overcoming of the OCD, right? And so to begin overcoming OCD, we need to teach your brain to respond differently. So once again, it's about that relationship with your thoughts. It is not just about getting rid of the intrusive thoughts or the intrusive emotions or the urges, and is so to feel less uncomfortable when they come along, right? So one of the most effective ways to do this through a process called exposure and response prevention, or ERP. So ERP involves two stages. Stage one is exposure, and that is deliberately putting ourselves or placing ourselves in a situation that increases the distress, increases the anxiety, and is very likely to trigger any of the intrusions. And then the second part is the response prevention. That means as we are purposely bringing the thought intrusions up, urges and so on, we are not responding to it. We're preventing the response. We're resisting the urge to perform the usual things, our rituals, compulsions, and that, as we discussed in previous videos, it sort of gives us a short-term relief, and in the long term, it maintains the difficulties. It's not enough to just simply feel the anxiety. If you are going to be working on exposing to the anxiety or to the fear situation, and still you're performing the rituals, you'll be back into the cycle. Okay? So it's not just about doing things. I always put an example of you are in a boxing fight, so you put your head in, they punch you in the face, you come out and said, I just got a fight. It's not about that, right? It's not, and we don't want to do it that way because you never learn that you can carry on and jump fully into the square thingy. I don't know the name. That's as much as I know about boxing. So it's about fully emerge and then staying there until we get used to that, right? So we would, going back to the same cycle, the one from the previous video, where anxiety, the previous video, we're going to back to the same cycle, previous video, 2 videos ago, video 6 or 7, where the anxiety will spike and then drops when you do the response, and it never really changes. And what happens is with ERP, with that response, we purposely expose ourselves to the situation, and then we don't do that. We don't respond, so we do the prevention, and then naturally the curve will go through and adjust. And then what it allows is that our brain will learn to handle the thoughts without needing to neutralize or escape them. Okay. Now, why does ERP goes beyond the just do it? Just don't do it, right? Just don't do it. One is easily said than done. And you might be thinking, I've tried not to do the compulsions and it's impossible, right? Or I tried it before and it didn't work. And you may be right. And people who don't understand OCD sometimes will tell you, why don't you just stop? And it's not that easy. And you wouldn't be doing it because if it would be that easy in the first instance, you wouldn't be doing it, right? So what then it takes, what we're doing with the step, with ERP is taking a step further. Instead of simply avoiding the ritual, we are asking you to do the things that your OCD fears the most. So we do an overlearning. We not only go further, we not only prompt our mind to have the intrusion, we go further and go to that sense where it's the most fear, that the OCD fears the most. And then it's not just about not responding, but it's actually leaning into the fear. And yes, it is unpleasant. It sounds unpleasant. It is unpleasant and is very, very challenging. And it's very successful. And what we see time and time again is that the more people are facing the fear situation with clarity, with a structure, with a way of going head on to it, with a repetitive structure, then they keep learning something very, very powerful and very empowering. And is that you can actually cope with it. And the anxiety comes down on its own naturally, and nothing catastrophic has happened. Right? So we'll give you some examples, very common examples. For example, OCD for contamination. Let's say if you were to believe that the arm of a chair is contaminated, normally you may not touch it, or you might touch it differently, or touch it with the elbow, and then you will rush, if you touched it or you brushed it, you will rush to clean your hands through. In ERP, then what we do is we encourage people, invite people to touch that chair, and then we stay with the feeling and not just sit frozen. Staring at the hands, thinking, I'm contaminated, I touched the chair is dirty, and that kind of focus only intensifies the distress or the discomfort. So we even go a step further. We ask them to spread the contamination. So if I'm feeling contaminated in my hands, not only I touch and say I'm contaminated, I can feel it, I'm also spreading it through my body, touching, and so on and so forth. And then we touch the phone, touch the mouse, things we continue. So what is happening is the overlearning is happening. And why? It's because actually, when you are going to wash your hands, even that would be a not effective, or it's an ineffective, because you in your brain, your OCD is started to think everything is contaminated, and then is learning that nothing is happening. That is then breaking the ritual. This is how we are breaking it. And it forces the brain, as I'm saying, it forces the brain to sit with the fear and learn that if you do these things, I'm still terrified and I'm surviving it, right? So this might be very extreme, and for some people, it may not be for them. What happens with ERP is that it is bespoke, it's tailor-made to you, right? Your therapist, we in the online therapy clinic, will make it for you to work for you and be effective for you, based on your values, based on your goals, based on who you are. We are not in a reality show. So it's not about shock you, be that this TV show that everything is happens. It's not about that. It's about you building self-confidence, self-efficacy, step by step on the steps that you choose. It's always a choice. Okay. So likewise with another example, intrusive thoughts of harming someone or about harming yourself. So if you are imagining and having the thoughts that you're going to harm, or harm is coming to you or your loved one, it could be an image, it could be a sort of, an image, for example. It is instinctively doing something, responding, sort of cancelling, pushing it away, replacing it with a comfortable image, praying, whatever it is people would do, right? Humans are very creative and very resilient. So in ERP, we ask again the same. We ask them to bring that, we trigger the thought, we go opposite to it, instead of neutralizing it. So we will be saying out loud things that we wouldn't do or we wouldn't say. So some of them may sound very extreme, and you might watch online other videos. It would be, once again, tailored to you and your steps and your base. And what we are also learning is that there is a truth to it, especially when there is intrusive thoughts and we are speaking about them as if they might come true, is that the thoughts are not actions. So saying that something is going to happen, it doesn't make it more likely to happen. And that is something that many people experiencing OCD has, which has learned or has developed, right? So one of the things that I don't know where you're watching this video, sometimes in life, people think if I say a loved one is going to have an accident, it's more likely. However, if people say I'm gonna win the lottery, not everyone thinks it's more likely to win the lottery. So if it's a negative thing, we have the belief that it's more likely to happen than it is a positive thing. So you may be asking, so why does this work? So whether it's touching something, saying something, or doing something differently, when what we are aiming is to teach your brain that discomfort is survival, because you're driven by the discomfort of the thoughts. And the thoughts are just thoughts. And the rituals aren't necessary, because the thoughts are not factual and not true. They come up, we're thinking machines. So ERP isn't just about resisting the compulsions. It's about doing the thing that your OCD really doesn't want you to do, and discover that you, as a human, you can handle it. This is how we start to break down beliefs that also keep the OCD in place and going. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So the more you carry on working on this, the more effective and more confident and more self-efficacy you're going to be building. In the features to come, we're going to give some examples of how ERP works in practice and how we can tailor it to your different types of OCD, because the principle is consistent throughout, and the journey is unique to you. For now, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it's been on a pace that you enjoy. You know that you can like us, share us, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video.